What a dramatic way to end another incredible night of a round of 16 action at Euro 2024. Relief on that man's face, Cristiano Ronaldo. There were tears and now there are smiles. Portugal through to the quarter-finals in a dramatic penalty shootout taking care of Slovenia. That man, Roberto Martinez, will be thrilled, but it could have been a very, very different story. But in the end, all that matters, Portugal go through. They'll meet France in a high-profile quarter-final. What a match in Frankfurt. What a way to finish it. Robin, you were commentating on that match. The emotion, we saw the tears. It had a bit of everything.
It definitely had a bit of everything. I think the substitutions could have been better. But, you know, when you come to Ronaldo crying, I think I am with it. I'd like to just get rid of the emotions. And when you're stepping up to take a penalty, I think just get the first one out of the way, which he did clearly. You know, he's known for his mentality. He's a monster at that. He's got so many goals under his belt. He's faced this pressure before. So, yes, he had to step up. Also for himself and to help his team, because if you missed one, go miss it again or go score the first one so your team gets the confidence.
We haven't seen, or I can't really recall seeing a player that emotional in a moment like that in a match as decisive as this for some time. To respond as he did obviously shows great character, but that was the pressure on he and his team in this match.
Well, we said at half-time, didn't we? He felt emotional, or he showed emotion all game. He was missing chances. He was fuming with himself. He wasn't happy with his teammates. He was obviously trying to break a goal-scoring record. He obviously felt a little bit anxious, maybe, about not scoring in the tournament. There were so many different sort of elements to the game. Šeško could have won it. You know, for Slovenia at the end, when he was one-on-one with Costa, Ronaldo will say, was apologising that he could have won it with his penalty miss. Then I've got to say, like, you know, you sit there and you watch Ronaldo miss a pen. You watch the man cry. You wonder what his mental state's like. But he's got this inner ability to try and park it for seconds or minutes, and then to step up and take the penalty. Many mortal players would have said to the coach, or a coach might have took it out of the player's hands and thought, like, you're done. Like, we've seen you cry. But not Ronaldo, because these guys are built differently. You know, they're built differently for a reason. They're the best players in the world for a reason, because they've got the mental capacity to get rid of any drama, any negativity. And he put his head above the parapet and said, no, I'm going to take the penalty first. I'm going to lead by example. And then once he scored the penalty and the saves start to be made from Costa, you just think, wow, they've got out of jail big time. But fascinating game.
We highlighted the mental strength of Ronaldo, and you know, he's up there with the all-time greats, if not the very best when it comes to the mental side of sport. But trying to get into his mind after missing the penalty, obviously here is the incident that led to the penalty, but after missing that, we saw the emotion, but to respond, I felt nervous and anxious for him. Do you think perhaps more than any other time in his career he actually started to feel that pressure on him in the shootout in a match that could have been his last at an international tournament for his country?
I think he did. I think as soon as he's missed the penalty, he's probably feeling now, obviously he knows how old he is, he knows his clock's running out, and he's probably thinking that's my last chance to score in the Euros to get the 6 is what he's after in the tournaments. You can see that. You can see that every thought will be coming into his head there, like, this is it, this is finished, this is not my story. And I think we all have the same thoughts. I think we all felt sorry for him at this stage. You know, Ronaldo might have his critics, most people love him, but I think we was all saying, this can't be the end of Ronaldo's story. This is too great a player, this is too big of a legend for this to be the end for him. And I think we were all relieved that it wasn't. You know, I'm not a Portugal fan. I'm not a Slovenia fan, but I just didn't want this story to end for Ronaldo like that.
I think just respect for a legend of the game who continues to give his absolute all. And look, on that front, of course, no one likes to see those scenes of him in tears, but the fact he was able to respond, I've got no doubt now he'll be feeling on top of the world.
I think, you know, for some reason, I am with the tears, because, you know, you missed penalties, I've missed some as well. Let those emotions out, don't bottle them inside. And as the game went into extra time, you could see him say, all right, I've got the emotions out of the way. Now it's time to just get back into the game. And when you step up first, it shows you two things, the character and also the fact that he's human. He's got emotions built inside him. Every goal that he scores, every game that he plays here could be his last. And he wants that goal. He wants to take his team forward, and that's what he thought. And at the same time, he's got family that he's always wanted to play for there in the stands. So this was more than just the game. So this was amazing for me to see Ronaldo step out.
I think when he puts his head on the pillar tonight, he'll still be distraught. Yes,
100%.
his team's gone through. Yes, his country's gone through. But he will be distraught because he's a winner. And Oblak read him. We talked about the relationship between the two players before the game. Look, he's apologising there, saying I should have won it in real time. That takes bottle, you know, because once you see, when you're a penalty taker and you see the goalkeeper guess the right way, you've got to make sure you are super accurate with that penalty. And it was perfectly placed, because some of the penalties from the Slovenians were at good heights for Costa to make the save. Still great saves, but Ronaldo put it hard and low side net, and where the goalkeeper then got no chance.
Robin, you mentioned family. We saw his mother in the stands as well, and she was in tears as well after that penalty miss. But he'll have his family to thank, but certainly one man who have to thank is his goalkeeper, because some of those saves in those key moments, not only in the penalty shootout, but in the key moments of the match as well, particularly that Sesco chance, well, that's the difference, and that's why Portugal is still alive.
I mean, this was a good save, don't get me wrong. You know, he gets his positioning right, he gets his angles right, times it to perfection. I've got to be critical of the striker there. I always think when you go through there, the touch before you strike should always knock offline. If you knock it offline, you'll open the goal up a little bit more. His touch before he struck it, it was a little bit straight, which, you know, closes the angles up and gives the goalkeeper the opportunity to save it. Yes, you've still got to save it. Yes, you've got to have your positioning right. It was a good save, a top save, but I think top strikers should score there. They should be able to manipulate that ball, knock it offline, open that goal up and just slot it down the side.
100%. I think, you know, as a young striker coming in, he will learn from this. You could call it Emi Martinez, Kolo Muani-esque, but at the same time, even if you look at the visuals from the front angle, you could see Diego Costa just balance himself out. He kept asking questions. Are you going to shoot? Are you not going to shoot? In that moment as a striker, you got so many questions, because when you're in the box, it is one touch. But when you're running from halfway line, you got so many ways in your head. Do I chip him? Do I put it through his legs? Do I go onto the side? Do I go around him? And Sesco would have had all of these questions. So at the end, it was Costa's save to make.
Sad for them, of course, but Costa, he made the saves that mattered most, and they came in the shootouts. And, well, we very rarely see a 3-0 scoreline to finish off a penalty shootout, but
that's a great save.
Picked all three.
I feel as though that's the best save, because Ilicic struck that quite well. It's the first one where you're under pressure, he guesses right. That sort of set the tone. I think the next two penalties, even though they're really good saves, and you have to credit the goalkeeper anticipation, trying to look at the biomechanics of a player, which way he's going to go. The last couple were at good heights. They weren't top corner, they weren't bottom corners, especially that one, tired.
I think, yeah, that was definitely tired. To begin with, I'm not a fan of a substitute coming in just into the game and taking a penalty. But at the same time, I think that the emotions also galvanized the team together to say we're just not going to win it for Ronaldo, but for everyone involved in today, we want to win this. And Costa stepped up.
Ronaldo may be taking Costa out for a dinner very shortly to thank him for his performance. And thanks to his performance, he is tonight's change maker of the match.
Oh, Pepe's made a mess of it. He's presented it to Šeško. Here's the moment, and Diogo Costa stops it. Oh, my word. Ilicic, and Costa stops it. And Portugal immediately on the front foot. So work for Slovenia to do, and Jure Balkovec's the only change in this team today. And Costa stops that one too. The Portuguese goalkeeper is responding. And Costa saves another. The most extraordinary sequence.
Diogo Costa, our change maker of the match, and for a good reason there. Remember the name, what a performance. Goalkeepers have been so important for their nations at this tournament, and well, for Diogo Costa, no difference. You can see, obviously played the full 120, 2 key saves, 3 penalty saves, and he has been, well, he is the reason why his nation are through to the quarterfinals, where they will now take on France. France have had their own issues, but this is this is actually the match that I had predicted to be my final at the start of the tournament coming in. Of course, France didn't win their group, but based on Portugal's performance tonight, Ash, against the French from what we've seen?
Yeah, I mean, I think they've still got a lot to do. You know, I still think France have got another gear. You know, they're still not fully clicked, France. Portugal, for me, I think we've kind of seen the best of them. I can't see where they can improve too much. You know how to play against Portugal. You know how to set up. France will defend. They'll also be compact. but France have a lot more quality than obviously Slovenia. Obviously the threat of Mbappe on the pace, they've got options up front as well. I think for France the question is, what combination do you use, what system do you use to try and counter what Portugal are going to play? But I would be shocked. Obviously anything can happen in football, there's many twists and turns, but outside of looking in, I would be amazed if Portugal pass France.
I'm with you. France is certainly my early tip for this one. But the big question, again, as always, will be, does Ronaldo play? Does Ronaldo start? Does anything change?
Yes, Ronaldo starts. That's always going to be the case. But at the same time, I think Martinez will now have a better understanding. I think he scraped through this one with the changes that he made. For me, one of the major changes that removed Portugal's attacking threat is Vitinha's substitution. These were the early occasions where Ronaldo was getting in, and there's something to remember that Vitinha was in this game while Ronaldo looked a lot more confident. There was a hole that was left while Vitinha left, and then the crosses also stopped coming in because the ball or the pivot from defense to attack was missing. Linia, defensive midfielder, I thought could have been substituted earlier. So there are a few key points that Portugal can work on, but it's going to be difficult because I actually think France still have a gear.
I'd like to see the running stats from Ronaldo, and the reason why I'd like to see it's not because I'd be critical. I'd be intrigued because I think if you're Roberto Martinez, you wouldn't want Ronaldo running 11k, 12k. So what you can do is you can tweak the system. You can play Diego Jota alongside him to take a bit of the load off. You could play Gonzalo Ramos alongside him to try and take load off, because you're asking Ronaldo to play up against two centre-halves for France who are going to be really strong and physical. So you've got to try and, if you're going to play him, and he's 39, we saw Pepe get taken off 41 because he was absolutely shattered, and Ronaldo's played every single game. What you've got to do now is try and help the player with the personnel around him, because you look at it on paper and you go, Bernardo Silva's and Bruno Fernandes and Leao, talented players, but you're leaving Ronaldo the width of the 18-yard box most of the time up against 2 or 3 centre-backs. It's nigh on impossible.
I just look at duels all around that French-Portugal thing. I'm thinking of Mbappe against Cancelo. That's a given. I'm thinking against Pepe, depending against Thuram, I think could come unstuck. You're looking at all over the pitch, the midfield of France, 3 midfielders I think can control it. Koundé, Leao was good today, but Koundé can take care of him on the right back. So I'm thinking of duels all over the pitch, and I can't see past France.
Fascinating duels, no doubt. But France have struggled for goals as well. But there's plenty more to come ahead of that mouth-watering quarter-final. But Portugal are through. That's all that's important for them. So Portugal go through to the quarter-finals. 6 of our 8 quarter-finalists confirmed. You can see Spain, Germany, Portugal, France. 2 of those nations will be in the semis. The other side, England and Switzerland, are confirmed. And our final round of 16 fixtures to come on the network tomorrow. Tonight all about Portugal, but you do have to feel for Slovenia because, well, they exit unbeaten. They were unbeaten in the group stage, 3 draws again here tonight. Drew 0-0 with England, took it right up to Portugal, but very narrowly go out.
There's always a way, I think, when you're going to go out of a tournament. You want to go out in sort of your own terms. You want to go out thinking, well, I've left everything out on the pitch as a coach, manager. You try to do the best you can. You don't want to come off the pitch if you're a coach, manager, player, and you think, we could have done more tactically, the players could have put more of an effort in. There was none of that. They were absolutely brilliant. With a limited squad, and I say that with all respect, to give the teams that they've played really good games and be unbeaten, as you said, that is a healthy position for that country to be in.
I wonder if the manager getting sent off, is there anything he could have done? Does he regret that? Is there something he could have said? And the penalty takers for a little bit of extra inspiration. I'm not quite sure why he got sent off, but I wonder if he's sat there now with a few regrets.
He got sent off for arguing with the penalty. That's what the VAR showed us, that he went to argue about the penalty and he got sent off directly for that. But at the same time, I think Jan Oblak was leading most of that chat. So you guys are absolutely right. They went out on their own terms at the end of it.
Don, you mentioned Šeško, that moment. How long does that live in the memory?
Oh, a long time, especially when you're a young player. If you've got anything about you as a player, whether you're young or you're experienced, the first one when you put your head on the pillow that you criticise is always yourself. And you'll replay this over and over because, as Robin said, what you want as a striker, you want options. I would have missed this because I hated time. Time was not my friend on the pitch. But as a centre forward, you want time. And I think the easiest finish, if you go into the Rolodex of finishes there, and I think of someone like Fernando Torres, he rounds the goalkeeper nearly every single time. And the strange thing from Šeško, whether it was a panic, whether it was, I need to get my shot away double quick because he's such a young player, he hasn't got the experience, he's took the shot very early. when he replays it, he'll think, like Ash said, Robin said, either take it a couple of yards further, either open up the angle. Mbappe would do a trick and go around the goalkeeper. Someone like Fernando Torres would round the goalkeeper. That, in my opinion, would have been the simpler finish. Go round the goalkeeper. You're really quick. Goalkeeper's not going to touch you because you're so quick. Empty net. That would have been, in my opinion, the easier finish.
I actually feel that he had another gear of pace in him. So if you come at anybody at pace, including the goalkeeper, now you're asking the goalkeeper questions. He took it in his stride, knowing that Pep is not going to come at me or get to me, and that's where it all went wrong. He ran straight at Costa with probably 70 or 50% pace. Where if you go at somebody, now you're asking the opponent questions, and that's where Sesko was wrong for me.
We're talking those closing steps. He looked to have just slowed a little as well.
Exactly my point.
Wasn't that top speed, and in the end, it was quite easy.
It was like a lot of time. But we're talking about relieved men. I bet there's no one more relieved than Pepe, because that would have been a way to finish a legend's career. Imagine going out on that one.
Absolutely. Well, there was still a lot to like about Slovenia and their tournament, particularly Jan Oblak, and given his brilliance today, he was our player of the day.
Portugal's big chance to strike, and the king is stood over the spot kick. Ronaldo, Oblak saves it, and it's a remarkable stop. He always gets the headlines, Ronaldo, but this one does not belong to him.
My goodness, what a fantastic save from Jan Oblak. Tremendous, standing massively tall, such presence in the Slovenian goal.
That top-class All Black save, our play of the day. No doubt that will be one of the iconic moments in the tournament, despite the fact that his nation were eliminated. Of course, they were, unfortunately, one of two nations eliminated today because France picked up a very narrow late win.
Thoughts about Manchester United and Everton? The erstwhile great Manchester United are still seesawing. A draw with Spurs on the 14th of January saw them win 5 straight games, albeit most of them just barely. Then came the awful loss to Fulham on the 24th of February, in which they played a lacklustre game. Then came Sunday's derby, where they lose 1-3 to the current league champions Manchester City, a game where they go a goal ahead, defend brilliantly for 50 minutes, eventually capitulating to the obviously better class of their rival. Regarding the manager Erik ten Hag, there are still many complaints from pundits left and right. The lack of clear sense of direction or style of play, lack or poor quality of man management, and constant poor recruitment of players. Since the 25% takeover of Man United by Jim Ratcliffe, it was hoped that Man United will progress to a more successful direction under his watch. Some pundits even think that Ten Hag might even be replaced come next season. Yet the stats show that he did not do too badly. He managed 61 wins in all competitions in his first 100 games, which actually is better record than either Mikel Arteta with 54 and Jurgen Klopp with 50.
Thoughts on Arsenal and Tottenham? If not for that one-week blip where they lost to Aston Villa and bow out of the Champions League, Arsenal have been by far the most impressive team this season. They have the best defensive record. They blow teams away by huge margin of goals, which leave them with the top goal difference, worth a point at least. Even after that week of disappointment, they are now pretty much faultless. It is not their choice, however. They have to be because reigning champions Manchester City have games in hand, which if they win all the remaining games, there is nothing Arsenal can do about it. They will be crowned champions for the 4th consecutive time. But the way Arsenal played this season, it will be a shame if they did not win the Premier League.